You managed to keep your composure despite the deluge of messages that kept coming in about the chaos that was taking place in your former community circle. This was the same group that had circulated malicious lies about your gift of discernment being harmful and unstable. But you chose to concentrate on healing and rebuilding your life instead. One by one, their cleverly concealed plans were being revealed, beginning with the manipulation of vulnerable individuals through the use of false promises and ending with the exploitation of hallowed traditions for financial gain. In the same instant that you discovered actual serenity and purpose, their entire social network was collapsing under the weight of their own deceptions, demonstrating that certain types of karma arrive with precise biblical precision. The divine timing was undeniable. You wake up feeling refreshed, unburdened by the burden of the past, and firmly rooted in tranquility. The morning air is calm before you. After that, the first message arrives, which is a text message from a former co-worker asking, "Did you hear that the office is being investigated?" The floodgates open. Call after call, name after name. The same people who formerly acted recklessly, sure that they could control, cheat, and oppress others. An additional person writes, "They are scrambling. Everything is being audited." You are precisely where you need to be, centered, unshaken, and free, while others are scrambling for justifications. Without consequence, now drowning in the weight of their own choices. You are exactly where you need to be. You proceed with your morning routine, lighting your sage, establishing your intentions, and taking a quick breath before continuing. This is not your fight. This is their struggle to be reckoned with. They believed that they had moved in silence, that their betrayals would never come to light. They assumed that their hands were clean, because they buried the evidence underground, but the truth does not remain concealed for long. According to the book of Numbers, chapter 1, verse 23, Moses says, "Be sure that your sin will find you out." It is now the same darkness that they used to operate in that is now choking them. Every lie they said, every unjust decision they made, and every dishonest action they made is being brought into the light. Another message appears on your phone. They are phoning attorneys. Employees are being terminated. You check your phone. They ought to have never treated you in such a manner. This was the way things were always going to turn out. They mocked your ideals, disregarded your warnings, and laughed when you walked away from them. They spent years creating their fictitious kingdom, taking shortcuts, engaging in backstabbing, and manipulating the system to their advantage. There is no way for them to avoid what is going to happen. Investigations, litigation, exposure, everything that they believed they had control over is falling apart in their hands. You are untouchable. You are able to have your tea without being disturbed, and your tranquility is preserved even as their world crumbles to pieces. This is not an act of vengeance. Rather, it is the restoration of order. Every lie was layered on top of another. Every fraudulent maneuver was concealed beneath polished words, and every backroom agreement was concluded with a handshake that held the weight of betrayal. They built their kingdom on lies. The power that they flaunted, the money that they hoarded, and the influence that they wielded as a weapon were all designed to protect them. But nothing that is built on sand can stand, since the ground beneath them is giving way. They believed that they were untouchable, the same individuals who used to roam around unchallenged, who conducted meetings behind closed doors, and who controlled the flow of success and failure as if it were theirs to distribute, are suddenly fleeing for cover. You can watch it occurring in real time. An executive who is in a bad situation yells out, "Find a way to fix this," A former ally whispers, "They are turning on each other." They were never strong. They were protected by a system that rewarded their deception, by a network that thrived on secrecy, by people who were too afraid to speak against them. However, when the divine steps in, no fortress is strong enough to withstand the storm. "This is a warning from a lawyer," the lawyer says. "They have evidence, a lot of it." You check your phone once again and see that there are additional updates. Assets have been frozen, contracts have been revoked, and investigations have been initiated. Everything that they used to support themselves is now being used against them. There is no amount of money that can undo the harm, no attorney that can delete the proof, and no influence that can stop the reckoning from happening. They are losing in ways that they never anticipated. They laughed at you when you walked away, called you foolish, and told you that you would never be able to make it without them. But look at them now. Their offices, which were once bustling with arrogance, are now filled with tension. Their voices, which were once dripping with control, are now wavering with uncertainty. Their reputations, which were once shielded by their status, are unraveling faster than they can contain. You hear the terror in their voices, you read the pronouncements, and you even watch the news. But you are not affected by any of this since you have never used their system. They needed you. They established their empire by taking shortcuts. But the truth was always the long game, and truth always wins. They needed you. However, behind closed doors, they were the architects of your struggles. They planted doubt where there was certainty, moved in whispers, shaping false narratives, played the role of an ally, while quietly ensuring that you never got too far on your journey. And for a while, they were successful. They smiled in your face, called you a friend, and acted as though they supported you. You were at a loss to comprehend the reasons behind the persistent closure of doors, the disappearance of possibilities, and the sudden reversion of the same individuals who had before supported your name. You questioned your own abilities and questioned whether or not you were dreaming things, but you were not. The reality is coming out. A former colleague confesses they were sabotaging you the whole time. An old friend admits, "I didn't see it before, but they were working against you." A once loyal supporter mutters, "I should have spoken up." The ones who operated in the shadows are now fully exposed. The schemes they crafted with precision are coming undone in ways they never saw coming. Their own words and deeds are used as evidence against them. People are recognizing them for what they truly are. The power that they formerly held over you is no longer in their possession. The stories that they spun about you are no longer believed. The influence that they had is broken. You do not need to utter a single word because the truth is taking care of them for you. Their masks have fallen off, their credibility is deteriorating, and their hold on your story has been severed. They were under the impression that they could rewrite your story, but the truth that you told was always more powerful than their lies. They began to edge their positions, their influence, and their connections, not with the intention of elevating you, but rather to dominate every opportunity you had to move forward. They believed that they could take what was rightfully yours, including your time, your opportunities, and your tranquility. They discovered a method to block every door that was intended for you. They attempted to shut you out, and for a while, it appeared as though they had succeeded. Your work was ignored, your efforts were disregarded, and your reputation was buried beneath falsehoods and politics. But they were unsuccessful. However, what is intended for you cannot be taken away, and now it is all flowing back to you. The same abundance that they delayed is now arriving. The same benefits that they attempted to claim are now being returned. The same opportunities that they hoarded are now placed straight in your hands. You do not need to pursue, and you do not need to beg. All that was withheld from you, including the recognition, the resources, and the reward for your labor, is being returned with divine precision. When you least expect it, a business contract that you had previously lost comes back to you. A position that had previously turned you down now seeks you out. A door that was previously closed opens wider than it did before, for the reason that the thing that they attempted to deny you was never under their control. Joseph was sold into slavery by his own brothers, who were convinced that they had destroyed his future. They took away his coat, his home, and his freedom, but they were unable to take away his calling. It was even while he was incarcerated that he possessed greatness. Even while he was in the pit, his destiny was waiting for him, and when the moment was right, he rose not just to any position, but to the highest seat of power at the time. The brothers who had deceived him were compelled to appear before him when he was in need of assistance. You are assuming the position that is rightfully yours. Those who have obstructed your path must now be able to see your ascent. This is not because you fought for vengeance. Rather, it is because you have not been rattled. They were under the impression that they could change the course of your life, but your benefits were just protracted and never denied. We would like to take this opportunity to pay tribute to those individuals who have been selected among us. Cheers to those who have a unique perspective on the world, those who are silent guardians, and those who are attentive spirits who are always awake and vigilant. They are not the typical type, and they wouldn't have it any other way if they could. While others travel down well-trodden roads, some make their own, engaging in fights that are not visible to others and shedding light on the darkness. It is not for everyone, and that is okay. Nevertheless, if you feel it deep inside, you will know that this is meant for you. There are no masks, no pretenses, just the truth. We raise a glass to those individuals who choose to take their own path, not for the purpose of receiving attention, but because it is an integral part of who they are. Here's to you. I want to express my gratitude for the fact that you never sought their approval. You never sought recognition. You never pleaded to be recognized. And you never compromised your integrity in order to go faster. The recognition is finding you anyway. A leader in your field mentions your name in admiration. A respected figure cites your work as a model of excellence. A colleague tells you, "I always knew you had something special." You have moved forward unshaken, and while your focus remained steady, their world began to collapse. The same adversaries who once flaunted their influence are now struggling to keep hold of the scraps. Their calculated confidence has vanished, and their names, which were once spoken with admiration, now carry whispers of scandal. Their reputations, which were carefully curated over years of manipulation, are unraveling under the weight of their own deceit. Your spiritual mentor recognizes the change. They examine your energy and take note of the tranquility that emanates from you. Your aura is clear and you are untouchable, and they are correct. This is because you are no longer carrying the burden of the darkness that other people have brought upon you. They are now the ones who are going to have to deal with the same anxiety, worry, and tension that your adversaries were experiencing. The words, "They don't even seem fazed," are mumbled by a former adversary, while a furious opponent mutters, "How are they thriving while we struggle?" There is no obligation for you to respond. You are not required to acknowledge them in any way. There is no denying that your path was never about their collapse. Rather, it was about your elevation, and that rise cannot be denied. They see how much lighter you move and how much more calm your presence has become. Your friends see it and feel it. They notice how much lighter you move. You have entered a new domain of authority that does not include the use of force, which does not involve arrogance, and which does not involve retribution, since divine justice does not require retribution. It appears that the energy that they projected onto you has turned around and returned to them. Because your achievement was never within their control, you continue to maintain your concentration, power, and lack of concern. When you told them the truth, they did not believe you. When you warned them, they ignored you. And when you stood your ground, they laughed at you. Every word that you said was bothersome to them, and they referred to you as difficult, crazy, or spiteful all the time. They disregarded your difficulties, referred to you as dramatic, and muttered amongst themselves that you were too dramatic. This was not because they were incorrect, but rather because they were correct. They wanted you to be mistaken. They needed you to be crazy, because if you weren't, then everything they trusted would be a lie. They used you to their advantage. What was once concealed is now visible to them. The veil has been lifted, and it will never be hidden again. In a low voice, a person who had previously been skeptical says, "I thought they were exaggerating, but I was wrong." One of your co-workers whispers, "Everything they warned us about is happening." Another person who formerly disregarded you admits, "I should have listened." The individuals who earlier supported your adversaries are now questioning everything. They observed your troubles and concluded that you were the issue. The same individuals who discredited you exposed the same individuals who made you the villain, uncovered the same individuals who thought they were untouchable and were unraveling in front of everyone else. They repeated the same dismissive phrases until it became hard to ignore the cracks in the story. There is no longer a need for you to persuade anyone. The truth is doing the work for you. Your tenacity was not in vain. Every time you remained steadfast, every time you refused to comply, and every time you continued to move, even when they wanted you to give up, it caused a ripple effect. The first person to awaken is followed by another, and then another. As the whispers become more audible, the number of questions increases, and the control that the deceit had previously had over the story has been lost. You were never only battling for yourself. Rather, your tenacity caused a shift in the common awareness. Now that they have seen it, they are compelled to realize what they had been attempting to ignore: your honesty, your strength, and the undeniable influence you have had. They believed that they were destroying you. They believed that every difficulty, every betrayal, and every moment of isolation was wearing you down, robbing you of your power and crushing your soul. However, they were unable to comprehend the nature of the person they were dealing with because you were never fragile. Your perseverance through adversity did not make you weaker. Rather, it developed you. One of the spiritual guides makes the observation that pressure reveals truth, and your truth is unshakable. They orchestrated challenges that were meant to exhaust you. They created storms that were designed to drown you. They stacked the odds so high that they were certain you wouldn't climb out, but you did. An old friend was amazed, saying, "I don't know how you kept going." A former rival murmured, "They should have never underestimated you. You should have fallen. That was the plan." You cannot be stopped, just like gold that has been polished by fire. When you step forward, you are no longer looking for acceptance, but rather totally claiming your strength. Every conflict has made you stronger. You move with precision, you talk with clarity, and you go forward. They are now able to see it. The radiance that emanates from your presence, the self-assurance that you exude, and the undeniable power that comes from someone who was destined to rise. It is not true that you were broken, that you were erased, or that you were destroyed. Rather, You were strengthened. Your root is unmistakable, and there is nothing that can prevent you from achieving your objective. They never imagined that the day would come when they would plan against you. They assumed that they would escape without any consequences, that their power, their connections, and their falsehoods would protect them from suffering the consequences of their actions. Despite the fact that they scoffed at your problems, acted against you without hesitation, and hoped for your ruin without fear of vengeance, judgment was always coming. Everything they did is coming back to them, a former supporter murmurs. They thought they could get away with it, a witness mutters. It's almost poetic. The suffering they wished upon you has turned its gaze toward them. An insider confesses that they believed they could get away with it. They wanted to see you fall. Now they are stumbling. They wanted to see you break. Now they are unraveling. They wanted you buried. Now they are the ones suffocating under the weight of their own actions. They try to run, but there is nowhere to hide. Their influence cracked, their wealth draining, their allies turning on them because deception has an expiration date. Harmon constructed gallows, certain that Morai would be hung upon them. He fabricated lies, manipulated narratives, and spoke his poison into the ears of those in power, convinced that he had triumphed. Yet, the trap that he prepared proved to be his own undoing. Those who conspired against you are going to have to face their own consequences. You will not be able to stop them. Your urge for vengeance is unnecessary. The consequences of their own decisions are sufficient. You watch in silence, not out of wrath or gloating, but rather with the unshakable knowledge that what was always destined to take place is now having its moment in the spotlight. They attempted to bury your name, drag it through the mud, twist your words, and alter the narrative until the truth was unrecognizable. And for a while, they came close to succeeding in doing so. I see it now. You were never the problem, an old acquaintance confessed. They lied about everything. The weight of their false accusations is gone. The whispers they spread are drowned out by the unmistakable truth. A former critic admitted, "I believed the wrong people." An old acquaintance confessed, "I see it now. You were never the problem. Your name is being spoken with respect. Your work is being recognized with honor, and your character is being viewed with clarity. This is due to the fact that truth has a way of resurfacing. They had doubts about you, but now they see things clearly. This is not because you argued with them or struggled for validation. Rather, it is because time, exposure, and divine order have made the way apparent. Your lack of talk was never an indication of weakness. Your perseverance was never a waste of time, and your honesty was never an error. Rather, it was evidence. Evidence that you have never required their approval. Evidence that the truth has always been on your side. Evidence that no amount of dishonesty could ever erase what is true. The entire world is aware of your identity, and those who attempted to destroy you must come to terms with the truth that they were unsuccessful in their endeavors. You have been carrying burdens that were never yours, expectations that were forced upon you, conflicts that were not meant for you, and cycles that were never meant for you to repeat for such a long time that the weight is finally beginning to lift. There is a breaking of the bonds, the route is becoming clearer, and the doors are opening. A spiritual guide exclaims, "You are no longer bound by what was." A mentor observes, "Something has shifted. Their energy is lighter." A former doubter mutters, "I don't understand how they keep rising." But you realize this was never just about surviving. It was about emancipation. In the same way that the Red Sea split for the Israelites, the systems that attempted to contain you have broken beyond repair. The people who attempted to control you are being forced to lose their grip. The terror that attempted to paralyze you is losing its hold forever. This is all due to the involvement of supernatural agency. Your challenges are dissolving. What was preventing you from moving forward is no longer able to do so. The things that were preventing you from moving forward are no longer able to have any influence over you. You are not only free, but you are protected. You are chosen. And no force, no enemy, and no deception can stand against what has already been set in action. They claimed that you would never escape. They said that you would never rise, and they said that you would constantly struggle. However, they were incorrect. You are not just free, you are protected. This is not merely a victory. Rather, it would be a declaration. Your success is not a result of chance, it is not an accident, and it is not a fortunate break. Rather, it is the indisputable expression of divine justice, the return of everything that was stolen, and the fulfillment of everything that was promised. You were never simply battling for your own survival. Rather, you were taking a step into the future. The individuals who attempted to bring you down must now watch you succeed. A former adversary murmurs, "I never thought they'd make it." Whereas a vanquished adversary murmurs, "How did they rise after everything we did?" One observer remarks, "This is something that is beyond human effort." They are compelled to watch something that they attempted to eradicate develop in a manner that is beyond their ability to control. It is impossible for them to erase you, because you were never intended to be erased. Their plans are destroyed, their illusions of power are shattered, and their attempts to remove you are rendered pointless. Each obstacle served as a source of fuel for your acceleration. Each betrayal served as a setting for divine vindication. And each adversity served as a refinement for the power that you now possess. You are not merely healed or exalted. You are not merely surviving or thriving. You are not merely acknowledged or revered. You are standing in full restoration. It is now time for you to experience joy, tranquility, and abundance in abundance. You are not need to challenge it, since it is present. Therefore, there is no need for you to wait for approval, because it has already been given. You do not need to provide any evidence. The fact that you exist is sufficient evidence. Nothing, not their skepticism, nor their envy, not their schemes, can change what has already been divinely predestined. This is your season of unmistakable success, and nothing can change it. You can feel the weight being lifted off your shoulders. You can sense it in the silence, in the clarity of your own thinking, in the unwavering tranquility that no longer feels like it is only transitory. You are free. The reports continue to come in. Names are being dropped, lies are being unraveled, and the same forces that were working against you in the past are now collapsing under the weight of their own deception. But you are no longer watching. Their collapse is not the focus of your attention. Rather, it is your ascent. The previous cycles have been broken, the loads have been removed, and the opposition has been eliminated. Now that you have emerged from the storm, there is no longer any lingering fear, no uncertainty, and no waiting for confirmation. You have arrived at a point where nothing from the past can bring you down. A mentor affirms, "Your energy is lighter than it has ever been." A close friend notes, "You don't even react to the things that used to bother you," a former doubter murmurs. "They've moved beyond us, because you have Isaiah 54:17 declares, 'No weapon formed against you shall prosper.'"